I am so excited to have on the program the one and only Joy Reid, who you all know, of course, blockbuster commentator and somebody who has done amazing television and somebody who's guest hosted this program as well, which I'm always so proud of, and was just on the program when Nayara Huck was guest hosting. But I'm like, I want to get a chance to talk to Joy about everything that she's doing. So, Joy, welcome back to the program.
Michelangelo, it is always a pleasure. So good to see you and talk to you.
Wow. And you have just been doing so much stuff. And I mean, I want to go back to, in terms of your writing and your book, and then now launching this new show on YouTube, which is also on Substack, which everybody can subscribe to Joy Reid on Substack, and then you get notifications. You do Substack Live. It's all in one. Talk a little bit about what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it is this sort of weird media multiverse, right, that I have joined, that you've already, been out here doing. And it's a different vibe because it's not just feeding, one beast, which is MSNBC. And even when I was doing that, I was always keeping my social media up, my Instagram, TikTok, and all that. But now trying to like feed all of these media marketplaces at the same time and make it all work together is a complicated mission, but I think so far we're doing okay.
Yeah, it's got to be a transition from, television on a network and kind of just going into the kind of it's the Wild West, isn't it?
It really is. And but the thing about it that's the same is that I was always very hyper social media, which my bosses never loved, but I've been on social media for a really long time. I think I first got on Twitter back when it was Twitter in like 2008 or 2009. And so I've been doing it for a while. So it's not completely new, but I haven't been a YouTube person, if I'm being honest. I've not really, I've consumed it, but working in that genre is very, very new. So, myself and my small, merry team, we had to learn like new skills because most of us either come from print or we come from cable. And then my husband is a documentary guy, so he came from Discovery Channel, back in the day. So we've all had to learn new skills, and we're doing that, but it's the same message, and it's just a more unfiltered version of the same message that I was given before. So that hasn't changed.
So, people can go and watch the YouTube show through joyandread.com, right? Your website as well.
So it's two different ways. So you can go joyandread.com is actually where my writing lives. And that we call that Joy's house. So that is like the one-stop shopping to get everything. And I
Right.
link there to the Joy Reid show. And you can get it through there, or you can just go straight to thejoyreidshow.com and go right to the YouTube.
Right to the YouTube. But then there's the Substack, and you're doing so much writing too, like jumping right in, boom, and talking about everything that's going on. And it's that to me is what's so valuable right now because we need people who are able to respond immediately. And because so much is happening in this country, and you've been talking about the American Gestapo and what we have seen with these masked thugs, and now this horrible concentration camp in Florida. What we're going to see now with ICE now, just given funding that puts it on steroids, right? $175 billion with ICE. Talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And even as we speak, Michelangelo, literally, I just got the alert 10 minutes ago, honestly, before I got on with you, that ICE raided MacArthur Park in the Los Angeles area. And if you're familiar with MacArthur Park, the one from the song, the one that's melting in the dark on the sweet green icing going down, that MacArthur Park, I believe it's the same one.
Yes.
This
Was
is where
just dancing to it during Pride weekend.
Listen, it's like that's all we dance to Pride, the great Donna Summer, God rest her soul. We're talking about a park where people go to hang out with their kids, to play soccer, to just chill and have a picnic. ICE is now stationed itself there. They showed up there, and Mayor Karen Bass responded to the fact that now you've got these alert systems. This is where we're living in America in the year of our Lord 2025. ICE shows up to places, and communities have created community alerts that automatically alert activists to show up where ICE is so they can protest and try to intervene, where lawyers can show up and try to give people legal help to stop them from being disappeared. Because what this regime is doing, and I do call it a regime, it's not an administration, it behaves like a regime, is they're literally snatching people off the street, and the people doing the snatching Maybe they're ICE, but maybe they just bought an ICE, outfit on Etsy. We have no idea. You can buy those outfits on Amazon, on
Right.
Etsy. So they may not be ICE. They may be Proud Boys or Oath Keepers for all we know. We don't know who they are. We just know they're taking people, and that people are disappearing for weeks at a time, sometimes months at a time, before their families and lawyers can find them. And even people who produce Real ID, the one with the little star in it, are still being detained. We've seen attorneys, lawyers who just represent migrants and immigrants who themselves are Americans also receive notices demanding they self deport and leave the country. This is, I can't describe it as anything other than an attempt at ethnic cleansing. This administration has literally empowered whoever these people are, or if they are ICE agents, to literally stop and detain anybody brown because they have a quota to meet. 3,000 people a day is what Stephen Miller has demanded. They want 3,000 people a day arrested and deported. And the last thing I'll add is they've now sent, I believe, 6 men who are not from there to South Sudan, which is a country that is always on the brink of civil war. It used to be one Sudan, and then they had a civil war and split. They're sending people to countries in the global south that they're paying to take these people and put them in their prison work camps.
It's horrifying. I've been talking about, the woman Andrea Velez. She is an American citizen. She was detained and, you know, she had to prove she was a citizen to be released. Then they accused her of assaulting an officer when she was detained. So they're charging her even though she did nothing wrong. She had no, she had absolutely nothing that she did. And then they said, well, because she, maybe she pushed them off or whatever, she assaulted somebody, but how does she know that that person is a ICE officer? How does she know they wear masks? They don't have ID. I mean, I don't know. How would you respond if somebody came up to you who had a mask on? And I mean, I think I would do the same thing. I think I would push them away. I think I would run away. I think I would do something, to defend myself.
And this is what they're doing. So there's a series of provocations that ICE are using to do two things. One, snatch people and grab them off the street and make them disappear. And secondly, to trigger an arrest of the interveners to charge them with assaulting an officer. So right, they don't identify themselves as ICE or as federal agents. They don't show a badge. In a lot of these cases, they're masked. And when they grab you, if you pull away or you push them, then they charge you with an assaulting an officer. This is what they did to Representative LaMonica McIver. She's in Newark. She and two other members of Congress, Rob Menendez and Bonnie Watson Coleman, who is in her late 70s or early 80s, they show up to try to do oversight over this private prison that's operated by the Geo Group. Because make no mistake, a lot of this is about money, right? These private prison companies like Geo Group and Core Civic are making billions of dollars off of incarcerating people. And this mass detention system basically is our version of what they're doing in El Salvador. So we're making our own. The reason they have one in Florida is that that's going to be a very profitable prison. We're now in the prison business. And so what they're doing is they need to grab 3,000 people a day, put them in these private facilities where Core Civic and Geo Group and these other companies can earn a profit based on our tax dollars. And then the third piece is if you try to intervene or you try in any way to resist them, they charge you with assaulting an officer. So they get a twofer. They get their bounty and they also get to arrest people who are protesting and maybe even lawyers. This is a way to chill dissent. So people will be afraid to intervene. They'll be afraid to push back. They'll just allow themselves to be taken and allow others to be taken for fear of being charged with a crime.
And this concentration camp in Florida, um, DeSantis awarded that to IRG. They were a big contributor to his campaign. So everybody is paying each other off in this as well and making out on it. And of course, all the money is coming from the taxpayers and from people being thrown off their health care who are going to die.
Correct. And so what we've done is Donald Trump said he wants to make America great again. And someone finally got him to nail down when he thought America was great. And it turns out it's the 19th century, the Gilded Age. And if you think about the Gilded Age, who didn't have rights? Well, you and me, gay people, women, black people, children who could be used as labor. And even, white heterosexual men who just weren't rich, right? They worked in factories. They often died in their 50s and 60s if they even made it to that age. They had no rights. They had no unions. They barely could organize. If they tried to organize, they could get shot by private police who were hired by their companies. For Trump, this was the idyllic age in America because you had this small group of people who got incredibly rich off of cheap labor and also off of cheap labor that was a concentrated force of labor because women were largely not in the workforce. So you had a smaller, concentrated group of desperate people who you could exploit, including children. And this era was great for a small number of people, but terrible for everyone else. There was no Medicaid, no Medicare, no Social Security. People died poor and broke. They're trying to get us as close back to that as possible, including promising to use the immigrants who are detained at these facilities for an indeterminate periods of time as free labor, as cheap labor. Trump said on camera they're going to give the owners of these concentration camps custody over the people that they incarcerate. And then they'll be able to lease them out as labor. And if you think I'm being hyperbolic, go to Louisiana, where I went last in May, where they're doing this right now. This is one of Louisiana's biggest businesses, is incarcerating people and leasing them out to McDonald's, to other businesses that want low paid labor. And then most of their pay gets taken by the state. So they don't even get to keep their little $6 an hour. Most of it goes to the state to quote unquote cover expenses. It's a hugely lucrative business. And what Trump has decided to do is to turn the US into El Salvador. We are now not going to be in the tourism business. That's gutted in Florida. We're not going to be in the business of having the top universities in the world. That's over. They're deporting or driving away all the great faculty. We're not going to be in the business of science and research where we were leading. We were the Nobel Prize leader of the world. That's gone. We're going to be in the business of incarcerating brown and black people and protesters and throwing them into prisons where they can become indentured servants. That's our new business model.
I am with the great Joy Reid, and of course, her show on YouTube, The Joy Reid Show. You can also go to joyandreid.com, Joy's house. That's where everything is. You can get to the show there. You can read all of her great work there as well. Joy, talk a little bit about what we saw play out last week with the big bad bill, how it played out, which I think really set up the roadmap for Democrats because Republicans really had to slog this through. And we saw Democrats do a good job of getting it out into the daylight. It's very unpopular and it gives them a real shot in the midterms. Tell me your thoughts.
Well, that's assuming we have free and fair elections. To be honest with you, I'm not confident. I mean, they passed this bill and then chanted USA and cheered. Those didn't look like people who believe they're ever going to have to fight a real election again.
Mhm.
I think they believe that by 2026, between gerrymandering and anti-voter laws, people won't be able to get rid of them. I mean, at this point, they're drowning white people in Texas, and they don't care. They clearly aren't afraid that white Texas voters will punish them. The district where that flood just happened voted 72% for Trump, and they still let them drown. The reality is, I don't think they even fear their own voters paying them back for this. They passed this bill because since 1913, let's just be honest, conservatives in this country, represented by the Republican Party, once they switched from being the anti-slavery party to being the pro-business party, have been against this thing they feel was an abomination, the income tax. Because the income tax was graduated. So if you made more money, you paid more. They hate it. And they've been wanting to repeal it since 1913. That's Woodrow Wilson's one good thing he did. They want it gone. But they've never been able to do it because poor people outnumber rich people and tend to vote to tax rich people. I mean, that's not shocking, right? Poor
Mhm.
people tend to think rich people should pay most of the bills because they have more money. And so it's been really hard to get rid of it.
And Trump thinks his tariffs are going to replace the income tax,
100%.
which good luck.
100%. They think sales, and I mean, Rick Scott used to say this outright because he's a Tea Partier. They used to say taxes should be at the sales level, meaning People who like to have to buy bread at Walmart should pay the taxes in their sales tax. Rich people should pay zero in their mind. Grover
Right.
Norquist said this to me on the radio back when I was doing radio. Rich people should pay zero. Poor people should pay for everything because they're the ones who need the services. And rich people should have private police, private fire departments. They believe there shouldn't be taxes at all. But getting to zero is really hard. And so they haven't been able to do it. The presidents who've done it in a dramatic way are Kennedy, who was trying to fight to get the tax rate down from 90 marginal to 70. And that was his big thing he wanted to do instead of civil rights. Then he had to do civil rights, then he got killed. Reagan, who did the next big jump down. And then you saw George Herbert Walker Bush inch it back up. And then he got taken out for it, out of office for it. And then Clinton did another one. I'm sorry, Clinton did not do a tax increase. He just barely did deregulation. But between the Reagan and the Kennedy tax cuts, it really dropped the tax rate for rich people way down below the way it was during the America's golden
And then
economic
Obama
age.
brought it up,
Slightly.
just slightly, but at least we were at a place where you could, fund the government and give people more benefits and services. And then, Biden obviously tried to do the same. And then obviously now they've just depleted it all,
And
destroyed.
oh no, that 2017, the next big cut was Trump. And that 20, and
Oh,
I don't
right,
think
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? And I don't think people understood the scale of that Trump tax cut. I mean, it cut the marginal rate, down to I think 37%, which sounds, that doesn't sound dramatic, but what it did was it gave 80% of the benefits to the super rich. And I'm talking about like, look, relative to my mama, I'm rich. You know what I mean? Relative to everyone in my family that ever made money, I'm rich. But it didn't cut it even for me. It was really for the people in the top
Absolutely.
0.1%. 400,000 families got about 75% of the benefits of that tax cut. And what they've done is they've now made that permanent. And they've said that tax cut will now go into antiquity. It will go in forever. And they will never have to return to and they actually edged it down a little more and made it permanent. But then for the working man, they said, well, no tax on tips. Well, here's the trick. No tax on tips only works if you make enough money to file a tax return. And most people who live on tipped income don't.
Not.
So they won't get it because you don't make
And
enough
it's
money.
expiring.
And it's
It's only,
temporary.
it's only temporary.
2 years. And the
Joy.
same with Social Security. That no tax on Social Security, it is a
Oh, that's a
temporary
fraud.
reduction on
People
anyone
got
over 65, including your Social Security.
Yeah, and people
Temporary.
got that letter that was a total fraud letter scam and applauding Donald Trump for a tax cut on Social Security. All the Social Security recipients got it over the weekend,
Yeah.
and it was a lie. Joy, I can't believe how quickly this went. You have to come back. Everybody has to go to the Joy Reid Show on YouTube, joynreid.com as well, on Substack, Joy's House. It's so great to have this conversation with you. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, my friend. Be well.
Thank you. Joy Reid, everybody go, The Joy Reid Show on YouTube, and of course, joynreid.com. We're back in a couple of minutes.
The Michelangelo Signorelli Show on Sirius XM.